Hello, everybody. This is Flat Earth Math, Charles Breeling. Welcome to Civil Discourse episode 21. Unfortunately, our guest has had to postpone. He had some last minute things that came up. He's going to get back to me as to whether he wants to do it in either 4 hours or 24 hours. So it's either going to be, this time tomorrow or 4 hours from now. So because and welcome Crowxe. So we're going to have an open panel. So I'm going to post the link in the chat again. And anybody is welcome to join except for Heinrich. So there's the thing, and oops, I'm sorry. Let me do that again. I put a slash in there. Okay. Here we go. Okay, Crow, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Yeah, and so to the people in the chat, people are like, oh, he's trying to weasel his way out and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is. I'm not going to read anything into it. If he says he's busy, whatever. The one thing that I want to say to everybody is that Sleeping Warrior and we agreed that we would have a shared slideshow. So I created a Google Doc and basically I put, Sleeping Warrior slides and I left a bunch of blank space. And then I've got my slides. And so it was a shared document. And so, he's welcome to look at all of my stuff. He's welcome to see literally every single point I'm going to make in our conversation. And again, it's not a formal debate. So maybe he saw the work I put in. I think my thing is like, I don't know, 40, 50 slides long or something. No, he did not run away. He's gonna be back either in 4 hours or 24 hours. We're gonna coordinate by email exactly when. But anyway, Crow, welcome. I'm sorry I cut you off. You were just introducing yourself and saying hi. What's on your mind?
Well, I think it's good to have a Sleeping Warrior after that stressing interview or Discord with Nathan. And you may not know, but it was stressing for us more than it was stressing for you.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that. I was trying to keep my good spirits, but I was bothered by the fact that I wanted it to be a civil discourse and it was not, but I know some people were like, I can't stand listening to this guy because he just, was just interrupting me, yelling, repeating himself. Oh my goodness, he repeated himself so many times. And it's like, that's no fun for the audience. Like I'm putting on a show. I would like my audience to be entertained and educated. But I didn't think it was either entertaining or there wasn't really any, or there was very little value. I should say that, very little value. And again, anybody is welcome to join. My conversation with Sleeping Warrior has been postponed. And what did I? Oh, I think I completely forgot to hit save on that. Okay, so Crow, what's on your mind?
I had some questions, and I really wanted this Discord to be delayed. And thanks God it is now delayed, because there's some points that I wanted to ask Sleeping Warrior, and I think maybe some others also want to ask him some things.
Okay, what's on your mind?
So the last time we had interaction, it was on some video about Einstein or gravity or something like that. And I told him that basically I don't care about Einstein or Newton. If I see two balls, like Cavendish balls, moving towards each other, I didn't say attracted or falling in curvature, whatever. They're just moving towards each other, want to be in the same place. If I see that, that's a proof of gravity for me.
Right.
And he didn't seem to dispute that this actually happens. So that's why I want confirmation. He seems to believe in the Cavendish experiment or test, as he called it, that the balls indeed are going to move towards one another, but he has a problem with the explanation. And if the explanation has some conflict between science, then boom, it doesn't work. So
Right.
that's what I want to know.
Now, who is the he that you're having this conversation with? Is it a YouTube commenter or something, or?
No, no, that's Sleeping Warrior.
Oh, Sleeping Warrior. Okay, okay. Yeah, it's interesting because and Anthony, he did say that I could share with you guys that he and I were talking back channel, and he kind of basically not tipped his hand, but I mean in the spirit of not having gotchas, he did share some of his thoughts about because he genuinely believes the Earth is flat, but he was talking about that he's going to call Einstein as a hostile witness because he's interested in the, I don't know if it's the 1918 eclipse, the Eddington, I guess the Eddington was one of the chief scientists who was on this project. Are you familiar with that? Where they were going to test to see, it was be a test of relativity. Are you familiar with that?
I think the only test I'm aware of is the lensing during some eclipse. Is this what
Yes,
you're talking
yes, yes.
about?
That's exactly it. So basically, using the lunar eclipse of 1918, I may be getting the year wrong, and I believe Eddington was one of the chief scientists. That they were going to photograph stars, right near the limb of the moon/sun, and the calculation. I mean, it was so crazy. The calculation, according to Newton, the calculation was something like a half an arc second of deviation. All right. Now, according to relativity, the deviation would be like 1 arc second. I mean, the numbers are just so tiny, but basically it's like Newton versus Einstein, or Newton, versus gravity versus relativity. And we're talking about a fraction of an arc second. And then with much difficulty, they confirmed that the lensing, the displacement of the star's image was in line with relativity. And the thing that a lot of people don't get is like, that doesn't mean we throw Newton out the window, because I mean, that's such an extraordinary event. Like it's not like, oh, nothing is as it seems. The way I like to look at it is that Newton, if you do a Venn diagram, Newton is like this on the Venn diagram, and then relativity surrounds it. So it's like Newton is the quote unquote special case where all the velocities are much, much, much smaller than the speed of light, and then Newton works just fine. But it is a subset of like relativity, which covers then, all the other stuff. Right. And thank you, Johnny. Yeah, and it's not just the orbit of Mercury. I mean, the orbit of Mercury works just fine under Newton. It's actually the precession of the, there's something, a precession of the ellipse, like it's an elliptical orbit. And that elliptical orbit, the ellipse itself over time precesses, or I'm probably not using the right words, but it was the precession of that orbit which was slightly problematic according to Newton, because Mercury is the fastest moving. My understanding is Mercury is the fastest moving thing in our solar system, I guess, except for maybe comets. Okay, I'm going to highlight that post because it's very important. Anyway, so it's a fun topic, but I was kind of surprised that Sleeping Warrior, posted that to me. In that, like, is he now saying that he believes in gravity? Is he saying that he believes that a lunar eclipse is actually, the moon blocking the sun, and that the sun is this massive gravitational body that can lens starlight?
Well, I think in this point, Sleeping Warrior is exactly the opposite of Nathan, because Nathan asked you about the radius, and then you say, okay, so it's a sphere, and once you say it's a sphere that you want to get it radius, here's going to tell you begging the question. But
Right.
I think Sleeping Warrior like to humor you, like uh, cut you a slack. Okay, so let's say that the moon is an object and blah blah blah. Show me your science. So I think this is one good thing about Sleeping Warrior.
And so Johnny System, I think I'm in agreement with you. It's like Mercury has an elliptical orbit, so it's like you combine Newton with Kepler, Kepler's laws of planetary motion, which are really they're not like etched in stone laws of planetary motion, but they do describe things very accurately in terms of like the ellipses and like sweeping out equal areas. But it wasn't the orbit of Mercury; it was the precession of the perihelion. Thank you, Baryon. Does that make sense? So, Johnny, I think you and I are kind of in agreement. We're just splitting hairs. I do want to say to everybody that my conversation with Sleeping Warrior has been postponed, and it is an open panel today. Open panel, if I can spell. So anybody who wants to join, Crow has joined. Thank you. Anybody's welcome to join except for Heinrich. Yeah. So Roadman, what he said is that somebody was in from out of town. He was very busy yesterday. He's very busy today. He wasn't able to get the slides together, and it's like I'm not gonna quarrel with that. My rule of thumb is like, people are telling the truth unless I have concrete reason, otherwise. And so it's like I never speculate on dishonesty. That's just a rule of thumb. People are always like, oh, you're lying. I'm like, it is what it is. But he did say he was very busy. Somebody's in from out of town. He may be able to postpone for 4 hours. He said either 4 hours or 24 hours. And we've got Tim. Tim, hello. I'm not sure. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. So, Tim, have we spoken? I'm not sure if your screen name is different.
Yeah, we did in the last show.
Oh, okay. I'm just not familiar with the name Tim. Do you go by another name?
I think it was Tim Reedy last show.
Oh, okay. Okay, welcome. What's on your mind?
What's the situation with Sleeping Warrior? Has he pulled out or what's going on?
It's postponed for either 4 hours or 24 hours. Those are the two options, and I have to check my email. So,
all right.
So you got anything to share with the crew, or you were just coming in to ask?
No, because I was in the waiting thing, and then I saw you were live, so I expected him to be there.
I did as well. I just found out. I literally found out 10 minutes before showtime. I just got back from church, so.
Yeah. Church? What church?
I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, formerly known as the
enemy.
Yes, the enemy. Formerly known as the enemy. So, but no, I was an atheist for like 3 decades. So.
All right, man. Well, if that idiot isn't showing up, then I'm going to pop up.
Okay. All right, Tim.
Good luck,
Thank you so much for joining. All right. Have a great day. Multi Tom Tom, an ex-Glover. Okay. You're always welcome, Multi Tom Tom. And if you want to join the panel, you're welcome. So, so just a little bit of background. I've been in this arena. Like, I think I told you guys, I got started in 2008 when it was text-based message boards. My YouTube channel, I think I started maybe almost 6 years ago. And yeah, great question for Roadman Bruv. There are too many things that seem to be inconceivable, and I know it's like I'm arguing from personal incredulity, but I've always had the sense that like life can't just be random. Like one theory of just hard atheistic science, everything is according to the laws of science, is that, life happened by accident, DNA happened by accident, and then, single-celled organisms evolved into multicellular organisms, evolved into sexually reproducing organisms, and every single one of these steps happened by accident. And like, I get evolution, and there's the family tree, and there's the fossil record. I get all that. But it just seemed to me that there wasn't enough time. Like, for example, on planet Earth, 4.5 billion years is not enough time to, like, just randomly generate a genetic code that passes down information to your descendants, Like, when you think about, the phrase, one of my favorite phrases is irreducible complexity. But I'm not answering your question. The key was not God. The key was the Holy Ghost for me. So I was an atheist, but I was a kind-hearted, questioning atheist. And my wife joined the church, I guess, about 7 years before. We had she was pregnant when she got baptized, pregnant with our twins. So when she started going to church every Sunday with the babies, she was like, "Hey, can you help me out in the pew?" I mean, it's like, here's a new mother with two newborn twins. And so I said, I'm fine. I mean, I was raised going to church every Sunday. So, so I was just helping my wife in the pew. And so I was a regular churchgoer. I was a non-member, non-believer, but I sat there in the pew, helping baby wrangle. And that was for, I guess, 7-8 years, like literally every Sunday for 8 years. So much so that the members of the church thought I was a member, and they actually asked me to give a talk from the pulpit, and I gave a talk one Sunday, and people still didn't know I wasn't a member. And but these missionaries, and then I went through like 30 sets of missionaries. Like we would host them for dinner, because missionaries have to pay their own way. And so we would host them for dinner like once every couple months. We'd have the missionaries over and give them a meal. And then, of course, they would give me their testimony, and they would ask me questions and ask me where I'm coming from. And I would say, I'm an atheist, And it was one set of missionaries, and they taught me how to pray. So here I am, an atheist, but I'm still thinking that there's something out there more than just the laws of physics. But I don't believe in God. I don't believe in Jesus Christ. I don't believe in any of that. And I was like, but they taught me how to pray. And I'm like, all right, so got nothing to lose. And so I sat on the floor, and I had my baby in my arms. And this is literally my conversion story. And I was praying. Yeah, I closed my eyes. I had my little baby Mercury, in my arms, sitting on the floor of my living room. And I was praying, and I didn't really know what I was praying to. The laws of physics, I don't know. Praying to whatever out there. And the best way I could describe it is the Holy Ghost came into my body, filled up my chest. I had to sit up to make room. I mean, that sounds kind of absurd, but that's the way it was. I had to sit up, make room, because my chest was full, and I had a vision. And then the vision didn't make logical sense, and I won't tell any more of the story, but I will say that this illogical vision, this thing that I saw, did not make logical sense, but came true within minutes of my baptism a month later. All right. So now I'm a believer. But the interesting thing about the Mormons is that there is no scientific principle that goes against any of our teachings. So it's like evolution, great. We descended from lesser primates, great. It's like there's nothing in there. There's nothing in the Big Bang, great. There's nothing in there that contradicts church teachings. So oftentimes, I say I'm a Christian. People are like, oh, so I guess you don't believe in Darwin. It's like, I got no problem with Darwin, Anyway, so thank you for the question, Roadman, bro. I gave a lot of detail. And again, I do want to say this is an open panel. Anybody may join. So what do you think, Crow? Are you a religious man?
Yes, I try to be as much as I can, and if I may say, like I'm having a new priest or someone like someone to guide you to know God more, to love God more, it is Kepler. And I've just made a post in the private chat, one of his quotes. I don't know if you can see it now.
Oh, so I'm seeing, and I'm not sure if I'm seeing all the posts, but I see. But
No,
who
it's
made
not
it?
in YouTube. It's
Oh,
StreamYard.
in the private chat. I'm sorry, private chat.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, from Kepler. Right. Yeah. The almost all the old scientists, they were all God fearing men. And I mean even Werner Braun quoting I don't know who he was quoting, Isaiah, the God, it reveals the his handiwork when looking at, and it's been translated as firmament, but you could also translate it as expanse. So it's like you look up at the heavens, you could call that the expanse. Um, so yeah.
And what's so special about Kepler and this quote especially is he's not just spraying or quoting from the Bible or something like that. He's a true believer that he knows that one of the sins is vanity, and he felt like he's trying to seek some glory for himself when his intention was to show the glory of God. And this is like the door of feeling ego or feeling big. So that's why I like him a lot.
Can I attempt to post that into the YouTube chat?
Yes, please.
All right. I'm not sure if it will fit. I don't know how many characters long it is, but
300 something.
we will see. Oh, it posted it as multiple that's really nice. It looks like it went
Oh,
through as two chat messages. But yeah, the if you look at the old scientists, they wanted to glorify God through their works in science, through their discoveries. Whether it's somebody working in a chemistry lab or an astronomer looking at the heavens, they and my wife says about the flat earthers, they just say, oh, just lights in the sky. I mean, it's like, like I put lights on a Christmas tree. And so if you took a photograph of my Christmas tree, you could say, that's just lights on a tree, because there is there's nothing special about any single light on my Christmas tree. They're just lights on a tree. And there are people who, they look at the sky and they're like, well, there's just lights in the sky. And my wife has this great quote. She's like, why deny God his majesty? That's what my wife says.
oh,
Why
yeah.
deny God his majesty? I mean, if you look at the heavens, man, it's just amazing. Yeah, that's an interesting quote from Doc Twat. Yeah, flat Earth is a proof of God. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. They do not behave like Christians. Many of them. But it's so funny that I'm sorry. I was really hoping that Heinrich would not join, but Anyway, just as long as you don't say anything, Heinrich, just be quiet. So what was I completely lost my thought. My train of thought. It's so funny. The flat earthers, they say that the Earth, the planet Earth, in the heliocentric model, is a prison planet, and yet they want to put a dome over. They want to put a dome over the flat Earth and say you can't explore. You can't explore. You are not allowed to go past Antarctica, but yet the Earth is a prison planet. It's like, okay, that's one way of looking at it. Anyway, all right. I don't know. Should we let Heinrich speak? All right, Heinrich, you may speak.
If you were going to talk about religion, I was going to talk to you.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
don't want to talk about Flarf though.
The mic is yours.
Well, I didn't want to take over the show. I just wanted to give you a little belief I have.
Okay.
and I'm nothing against what you believe, because I don't know what you believe. I've been considered a Christian since 1983, so I've gone through a lot of thinking on this, and I've kind of gotten to the point where I believe the teachings of the New Testament and what it's saying, but the Old Testament, especially like Genesis, I think that was probably just the church telling a story to the parishioners to explain everything. I don't
Right.
think that's an actual historic beginning of man, or Noah, Adam, ribs, all that. I don't think it's even meant to be a historical story.
Right. It's an origin story. And the thing is, everybody needs an origin story, you know? That just kind of rounds things out to have an origin story. So, yeah, absolutely.
So when people argue about the Bible, they always want to bring up something like that. Well, this didn't happen in 7 days, and how could the light be here, and then the earth was formed, but then it's just, it's so obvious to me what it's a meaning. It's a what do you call it? I'm blanking. Spiritual. It's a spiritual message and not a historic
Right.
or scientific message.
Right. The thing is, the Bible is full of parables, you know, like, you know, don't criticize the mote in your brother's eye, you know, while you have a beam in yours. So it's like, all right, I'm seeing a speck of dust in your eye and I've got a 2x4 sticking out of my eye socket. And it's like, I don't think that's literal. Like, I don't think there was somebody walking around with a beam sticking out of his eye socket, you know? So it's a parable, you know, it's like, so what can we learn from that parable? Like, what was the message, you know? And it could be that a lot of those origin stories are, you know, are intended for the spiritual message, not for necessarily the scientific, you know, fact of it. I mean, the people who use the Bible as their science manual are, you know, are very mistaken, because it's like, you know, why was the Bible written? It was not written, you know, as a scientific manual. But there's some people who I think they miss the point. They miss the script, you know. So
You know, I hate to say that, especially, I don't want to give too much about myself away, but I can't say a lot of my beliefs because a lot of people believe that it's inherent word of God or whatever. I just feel like it's just kind of the church
right,
leaders, probably spiritual men that thought they knew. I don't think they're, you know, I don't think they're just lying to you like Santa Claus or something.
right,
Well,
right.
Santa Claus is real, but other than that,
Yeah, and that's one of the problems that I always had, you know, when I became an atheist. It was my criticisms of basically organized religion. It just seemed like that's where things, you know, went astray. Because it's like my thought was, you may have a personal relationship with your creator, whether you call him God or whether you call your Savior Jesus Christ or not. And then you find another person and you're like, oh, you've got the same beliefs I do. Let's get together. And then you get a group of people and then you call it a church. Well, then you start having children and you raise those children and you're like, children, this is what you're supposed to believe. You know, it's like, I mean, not that churches do that, but you know, like if there's a kid whose parents are Catholic, that kid's probably going to be Catholic or he's going to leave the church. But I mean, like, those are the, you know, 99% of the cases, he's either going to stay Catholic or he's going to leave the church. Yeah, and a slight minority of the cases he might convert to another religion. But you know, so it just struck me as like, how come there are all these Catholics running around? Oh, it's because their parents were Catholic. And it's like, well, what kind of religion, what kind of a faith system is that? You know? And so one of the things that's really interesting about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, formerly known as the Mormons, is that they actually talk about conversion for people who were raised in the church. Like I've never heard that from any other religious denomination, any other religion. I've never heard of conversion, meaning somebody who was outside the church and then got converted. Like I was converted, I was an atheist, and I got converted. But they actually talk about conversion in the context of people who were born and raised, in the church, to members, of the church. And that's fascinating because it's like, and they say you have to have your own conversion story. You have to have your own testimony. You can't be handed a testimony by your parents. It has to be a personal relationship, and that's I think that's really special. Okay, so just to remind you guys, Mr. Unite for the Children, or children, is he something came up. There was somebody from out of town. He was very busy yesterday. Couldn't work on the slides. He's very, very busy today. And so he either is going to postpone for 4 hours or postpone for 24 hours. I have to check my email. So does either Imric or Crow, do you guys want to take the lead on the mic while I go check my email?
Yeah. Okay.
Or you guys can talk to each other. Go ahead.
Go ahead. If he doesn't want to
Go
talk,
ahead, Andrew.
I knew that would happen.
We talked before, but that was long ago. I can't remember what we even talked about.
Probably nonsense. I was going to say something. Somebody in the chat. Who was it? Johnny System. I don't know if he's still here. If you stretch 6 days over 13.5 billion years, they are correct. They're in correct order. How did they know this? So that's exactly what I was saying. I don't think the 6 day story is an explanation of that. I think it's totally a spiritual thing, a message saying that God created everything and that people are responsible for their actions where animals are not. That's basically what Genesis says. God created everything, and people are responsible for their actions and will be held accountable. And animals are different. That's what I get out of Genesis.
Well,
Yeah.
there's an example for taking the words of the Holy Book literally. There's a verse in Quran that where God swears by something magnificent, something big. He says that he swears by the knocking star, the piercing star, and you would never know what is that piercing star, something like that. So at that time, after that verse was released or shown to people, so people assumed that this piercing and knocking star is some like Venus or something like that. It was a very bright star in the sky. But then later, the scientists started to see things that are more like they adapt to what's in these words. So they say now it's probably the pulsar, the pulsing star, and it's piercing because it's spinning. So, and some people just adapt. Yeah, it's okay. And some people, if they're hard-minded, no, they wouldn't accept that.
So let me break in here. Johnny System has joined us. Welcome, Johnny. You want to introduce yourself and then say your piece?
I'll do the introduction after the piece. How's that?
Oh, okay. Please. Yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Very infamous in this flat Earth deal. So a few years back. Anyway, so no, what I meant by, if you read Genesis, like I said, at first it was the light, and then 4 days later, the stars. So where did the light come from? Because they were right. That's actually factually correct. Light was if you believe in the Big Bang, then the very first thing was light, right? This is why people ask, well, why is the universe dark? Well, because all these atoms spread apart. If you even look at the human body, 97% water. It's actually 99% space. If you look
Right.
at all the, an electron orbits very far. There's more space in an atom than any other single thing. So space occupies more space than anything else.
Right.
But light was the first thing because it's pure energy. And then hydrogen, you say evolution is an accident. I don't buy that. I think if we're ever to get out in the universe and to see other planets, we're going to find life is universal. DNA will be universal. It's not accidental. It just is. And okay, if it's an accident, fine. Doesn't really matter now, does it? It just is. We are here. You and I are talking. We exist, right? So I don't, you know, uh, um, I find it fascinating. I'm not religious at all. Uh, not against it. You can have whatever you want, but the priests. I'm up in Canada, and the priests up here. I've been to a couple of other places. One in particular in the middle of Quebec, which became infamous for having abused boys for over 50 years. Nobody got in trouble, and when I was like 12. I saw this. Now I wasn't abused, thank goodness, but I came close, and so I turned against it at that point, and that's my reasoning for that.
Right.
Nonetheless, I have read the Bible a few times. I was brought up as a Catholic, and I find Genesis fascinating because the 6 days of creation are in the correct order. So if you say, okay, the fourth day was the stars, right? Well, if you say 4 days is like, I believe there's a sentence to the Lord, 1,000 years is a day, and a day is 1,000 years. So assume that really is, a million.
Right.
So some billions of years later, the stars came into being, but the first thing that created was the light. And I find it fascinating that thousands of years ago, because the Bible really, the Quran, or the Torah rather, which is the Old Testament, because they're all Abrahamic religions, right?
Right.
And I find it fascinating that they actually knew the correct order of these things. How did my fascination? If we look at things like pyramids and ancient structures and blah blah blah, we still don't know how they did all that stuff. So how did they know that light was the first thing? Because they were correct. How did they know the stars didn't come into being until later? So
Right.
this is not, to my idea, this is not just a story. It's their way of representing their knowledge or understanding of the facts at the time, because they didn't have the mathematics, computers, and blah 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 to explain all this at the time. But I'm still fascinated. How do they know? How
Right.
could they possibly have known? Because they obviously understood the Big Bang, or what their concept of the bang was. And my belief now is that the Son of God is the sun in the sky, and God is the black hole at the center of the galaxy, because that's as far as our knowledge went up until just recently with was it Hubble or Kepler, one of those? No, Hubble, I believe, who found that the universe is expanding and all that stuff, right? As to your first question, I used to be known as the spaceman.
Oh, Spaceman. Okay.
I wasn't gonna bust you, but I've been talking and trying to figure that out. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now I completely
was,
forget.
I was well known. I hosted a lot of these live things,
Okay.
and of course, I've had the pleasure of dealing with that asshole Nathan Oakley, and I've had quite a few arguments with Multi Tom,
Right.
and a few of the guys in your group there. But yeah, I was in it too. To me, it was a joke. I find the whole thing, because the Earth isn't flat. I mean, you're never going to convince me of that. Absolutely.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, all I have to do is look at a sunset, and I can tell you that much.
Right. Well, and also all the things that are built upon.
But I figured I used to be quite disrespectful. You've been pretty respectful. You actually answered the comments. I was impressed with that, and so I thought I would come in and treat you respectfully as well.
Well, I appreciate that, Johnny. The concept of the days of creation, I think, and I don't know what the actual scripture says, but it isn't like the stars appear after the earth, like the earth was without form and void or something, and so it's like some people have argued that like the things are out of order in that
No, they're in
respect.
the correct order because it was the Earth was void and without form. I mean, it didn't come into being until the universe was already 9 billion years old.
Right.
So it didn't exist, but the light did.
Right.
So
There is
how did they know? That's I don't dispute the order of creation. I just it couldn't have happened in 6 days, first of all. So regardless of how long it took, how did they know the correct order? That's what fascinates me. That's what I find interesting.
right. There is a video, and I just tried to do a quick YouTube search of it, and I couldn't find it. But I know I watched a video. It was only about 10 minutes long. It's of a woman who's a Christian astrophysicist, and she used the principles of relativity, which warps space-time. So it's like time is not time. Like time that we think about is not time. You think about
Correct. Yes.
things stretching out. So her thesis is that the 6 days of creation is not only in the correct order, but is in the correct timeline, because of the stretching of time.
That's a time dilation. Well, I don't know. I don't really buy that because it would have gone faster, not slower. But I'm not sure about that. But that's fascinating. That's an interesting thought pattern. I would have to think about that. But I don't buy it either way, time slower or faster, because time is relative to speed.
But it's interesting.
It's indirectly proportional to speed. The faster you go, the slower you go.
Right.
And this is, if you can look at your metabolism, we've proven this with atomic clocks, even on just regular jet airplanes going around the planet or whatever.
Right.
So that's not the facts of time dilation and length contraction are not in dispute. Nothing of Einstein was wrong. It's almost 100. I believe 100% of it has been proven correct now. The mathematics of it. You can't dispute math. I'm sorry, but you just can't dispute math. 2 + 2 still equals 4 in my book.
Yeah. Well, his math was pretty, and I really have not studied this, so this is me speaking off the top of my head. But my understanding is that he had to extend the laws of physics using mathematics.
What?
So it's like the laws of physics, hadn't gone far enough, and so he used math to extend the laws of physics, and he's been proven correct.
What's really odd is that he almost proved himself wrong. He thought he was wrong. He didn't believe the universe was expanding. He thought it was a finite size, and that's why he added that the fudge factor, whatever it is he added there that he always regretted having done. And then of course Hubble comes along and says, "No, you were right, actually," but you just looked at it the wrong way. But his math is right. Yeah. No, absolutely, it's been proven time and time again to be correct. Lensing. I watch a lot of science and stuff. I'm obviously not a flat earther, so I go a whole different vein than you guys. Plus, I have a background in. I have engineering education, formal education, so I can look at these things a little bit different. And not being religious also gives me a bit of an edge in that I can look at religion objectively.
Right. And I'm not trying to sell you on my religion, but you seem to take scripture as fascinating bits of literature that are worthy of study, if I'm not mistaken.
That's not a bad assessment.
Okay, so my recommendation, and again, I this is a 30-year former atheist talking here. Have you ever read the Book of Mormon? Because if you just treat it as a work of literature,
I lived in Salt Lake City, my friend.
Okay.
I lived 2 blocks from the chapel. I've been inside the Mormon Tabernacle. It's an amazing. Oh my God, that thing is inside.
Yeah.
If you want to go see something in Salt Lake City, go to the tabernacle. You're not allowed into the inner chamber. But my girlfriend and I, we got as far as the. Oh my God, it's luxury times 100.
Right.
It's stunning in there, and the acoustics are beyond compare. Oh yeah, it's. So I met a lot of Mormons. Yeah, I know a little bit about that. I know just a tad. Haven't lived in Salt
Yeah,
Lake.
but seriously, if you just treat it like, I mean, people read Shakespeare, but nobody says, "Oh, we're going to hold Shakespeare up to be scripture." Everyone understands it's literature. So if you just take a look at the Book of Mormon as just a fascinating work of literature,
I haven't.
I
Go ahead.
I think you may find it fascinating because there's a bunch of things that are completely wrong about the Book of Mormon. For example, the hero of the story commits a first-degree murder, like, I don't know, 20 pages in. Like, he literally commits first-degree murder, and he's the hero of the story. Okay. The good guys, they separate into two tribes: the Lamanites and the Nephites, and then they're always battling each other throughout most of the Book of Mormon. The Nephites are battling the Lamanites, and the Lamanites are the bad guys, and the Nephites are the good, righteous guys. And at the end of the book, the Nephites are destroyed. So it's like, here's this book that's supposedly work of scripture, and the good guys lose at the end of the book. It's a fascinating story.
Good guys lose most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to the movies. I hate to say it. I don't consider myself a bad person, but I certainly make stupid fucking mistakes in life.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've read the Bible. I mean, if you read the Old Testament, I guess you're essentially reading the Torah. And I've studied a little bit about Islam. I don't, would never claim to know a lot, not nearly as much as I know about my own religion, or what I was raised as. But the Mormons, all I learned from them is they sure as hell don't live according to their religion.
Yeah, well,
no,
you saw the factory, so
No,
I'm sure the hypocrisy was.
I was 31 when I was out there. I think 31, and I'll tell you, there's no drinking, no partying, shit. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
What was interesting was that they had an interview on TV one night in the news, and it was interviewing the boys, mostly the boys. What do you want to do with your life? And it was religion, get married, have kids. Not a one of them said they would go to college in the entire interview. And I was like, wow, this religion really owns this town. I also lived in Clearwater, Florida, by the way.
Okay.
I guess you know already where I'm going with that one, right?
Yep. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. I've lived in the top religious places in the United States other than the three dominant religions.
Right.
Yeah, Clearwater was a friggin' whoa. There's some robotic people. You see them at lunchtime. You go outside, and the kids, they're all wearing the same shit. Black, all black. The guys are black pants, black shoes, black tie, white shirt that never fits properly. It's always fluffy at the bottom. The girls got the black as well, but it's a skirt with the long bobby socks, I think you used to call them. But they look like robots. They don't look like they have their own personalities. I found it rather odd. And you would see them every day at lunch, and other than that, they're selling flowers. So it was a really, really strange. I found it much stranger than Salt Lake. Salt Lake, I was okay with that, because
you were just hypocrisy.
Yeah, they party. They're normal. You have to drive down to Provo to go get a pony cake, right? Because you can't buy a cake inside SFC. But they had the brown bag law, right? I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
No.
So you're allowed in Salt Lake City, where the brown bag law is enforced, which is the main city. You're allowed to drink and drive as long as it's in a brown bag and nobody can see it. You're not allowed to drive drunk, but you're allowed to drink and drive at the same time. So you can drive through a drive-through, buy a can of beer like this size here. I'm drinking beer, and as long as it's in a brown paper bag, and they sell it up the drive-through in a brown bag, and you go ahead and drive all day long. So half the city driving around, half in the bag, and you have to be a member. to get into a bar down there. Now, I don't know if it's like this anymore,
Yeah.
but they also didn't sell. If you go into the bar, it looks like you're inside an airplane or a hotel because all the bottles are them little mini bottles,
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
and you
Hey.
have to pay a membership. Go
All
ahead.
right,
Go ahead.
Johnny.
No,
Johnny, I'm going to interrupt you. Brenda just added, and we're gonna shut this stream down in about 10 minutes. So let's give Brenda a chance to share. Hi, Brenda.
Why did Anthony? What reasons did he give? I missed the beginning of your show.
Yeah. So he and I've been emailing back and forth, and apparently he was real busy yesterday, and somebody came in from out of town, and so he would like to postpone for either 4 hours.
Well, that's actually reasonable.
Or 24 hours, and so
I mean, if he's got visitors that came from out of town, that's reasonable.
Sure. So I'm not gonna speculate or anything like that. So I'm waiting to get an email back from him because if we could do it in 4 hours, that would be great. But
have you ever considered moderating?
What do you mean?
Well, a show like this, except where you moderate between two people who are talking here, and you're the moderator rather than the interrogator.
Right.
Because as far as I can tell, I mean, I haven't seen you moderate, so I don't know. But it seems to me that you would be fairly decent at it.
Oh, I appreciate that. I haven't given it a thought. My channel has kind of evolved. My channel started out where I was like scrupulously agnostic. Like if you watch my first like 6 videos, you can't tell if I'm a glober or if I'm a flat earther. And I don't know if anybody, in the history of YouTube that could say that, 6 videos in and you still can't tell if I'm a flat earther or a globe earther. But then I kind of got away from, what'd you say?
Which are you?
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, you had me fooled for a while.
You made up your mind yet.
So
and so final thing, 'cause maybe you could tell us all, what is magnetic declination and can it be used to measure distances?
The answer is C. The answer is C. It was a multiple choice question, right? Yeah. The answer is C.
Yeah, it was.
It's right ascension and magnetic declination, right?
Not magnetic. No.
Stop being so serious, Johnny.
Well, there is declination, but it's not magnetic.
But and then Cat Earth, right? And then Stringer News. I remember Cat Earth. He was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. That guy was pretty funny. Hey, I want to give I want to give a shout out to I Can Science That. He had a fantastic talk. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had to get to bed. But he had a great conversation with Corey Kell of Flat Earth Intel. So hats off to I Can Science That. Great conversation. I missed the first 40 minutes of it, and I missed the end of it, so I'm going to have to check that out. So if you guys want to check that out. But we're going to be shutting down in about 7 minutes. To Crow, you have any final thoughts?
No, nothing much. It's been a pleasure to hang out with you.
I appreciate you stopping by.
I'll take off then.
Okay, Brenda. Thanks for joining us. And Johnny, the religious stuff is really fascinating. I
didn't expect to get into that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of people they misread me, and like I when I started my channel, I was an atheist, but like I had a very personal, like my personal conversion story is just that. It's personal. And I've told it to people, and they're like, "Oh, well, you just were hallucinating." And I'm like, "Okay, I was hallucinating," but the thing that I think people gloss over, which is what really sticks in my mind, is that I had a vision which didn't make logical sense. So it's like, yes, you were hallucinating, but it came true within minutes of my baptism. This vision that I had, it came true within minutes of my baptism, and it's like, okay, so that's a pretty strange hallucination.
Believe in the afterlife?
Yes, I do believe in the afterlife. And there's some fascinating stories.
Have you ever seen what you might consider a ghost or an image of it or a sensation of somebody you knew who was dead?
No, not personally. I maybe just hints of it, but yeah.
I literally did. I was there for both my parents dying, And when my father died, he died some almost 20 years after, well, not quite anyway, 15 years after my mom. So I talked to my mother in my head as if she's right in the room, you know. And I think that's a common thing. If you watch that new Netflix thing called Afterlife by Ricky Gervais,
Okay.
really good, really good. Got some religious. It's comedic. It's really funny. It's dry humor, but it's really, really. I was awesome. I even wanted to write him a letter, say, "Wow, you made me think," you know. So, so when my father died, my mother, I sensed her. I looked up into the corner of the room, and I said, "What the hell's that?" I saw this. Didn't see a physical thing, nothing physical, but it was like it was swooped down, went through my father's body, and went up and went out the other corner of the room, up in the roof or in the ceiling rather. And I looked down, my father's gone,
Hmm.
and I thought, "Wow, what the fuck did I just see? What was that?" And I never believed any of that stuff before. I was totally against it. You know, I was like, total bullshit. But when you see something like that, wow, you take a step back and go, okay, I got to recheck what just, you know, what happened? What did I just see? Is it and my mother has never talked to me in my mind the same way that this is why the Afterlife show, the Ricky Gervais meets an old lady, they sit on a bench, and the old lady is talking to her husband's gravestone as if he's there. And Ricky Gervais had been doing the same thing with his ex-wife who had died of cancer like earlier in that year. And they talk to the people as if they're still in the room. You can the Kaminsky method, the same thing. There's a lot of this is, and you know, I never would have believed it. I now believe it, and so I do believe in an afterlife. I do think there is a place that we all do go. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is, where it is, how it exists, but I know now that it's there.
Right.
So it gave me not afraid to die anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm 100% with you. I am absolutely not afraid to die, because of
Matter
my.
of fact, I could be anxious for it some days. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But like there's just too much stuff out there, like, you know, and we gotta shut down in less than 3 minutes. But there's too many stories. Like, I think Sam Kinison was like, he and his best friend were in two cars, and he had a car wreck, and like the best friend was like there in the last moments of Sam Kinison's life. Sam Kinison looked over his best friend's shoulder and said, you know, okay, I'll come along, or something like that. I mean, he was like, who was he talking to? And then he was gone. My own father was in hospice. He had liver failure. I mean, his liver just up and just stopped working. I mean, he was 92 years old, and my sisters and I and my mom, we went to the other room to kind of talk about, you know, basically hospice and like the you know, end of life care for my dad. And my wife was still in the room with my dad, and my dad was kind of like dozing off or whatever. But then she hears him talking, and then he's talking to somebody who's not in the room, and he's like, okay, yeah, sounds like a good idea. And it sounded like one half of a conversation of somebody trying to convince you, come along, it'll be okay, right? It's like, but the side of the conversation was only my dad's side. Oh, okay, sounds like a good idea, or sounds like a good plan, or something like that. And then within days, my dad was dead.
No,
there's
I totally, I would not have believed you before my experience, but I absolutely believe everything you said. Yeah, no doubt about it. I want to, before you shut down, I want to say this is the first flat earth thing I've ever gone into where I've actually had a good time. Enjoyed talking to you. I hope you keep it real the way you have today. I don't mind the subject. I'll tackle any subject that I'm familiar with. I don't do opinions. I do facts as much as possible.
Right.
Like you said, I'm too serious. Yeah, I know. Get over it. But I want to thank you for having allowed me in. First of all, treating me like a person. A lot of times, flat Earth community can be pretty vile, and you're not like that. And that's why I was listening for a while. I said, hey, maybe this guy might be actually worth talking to. And it turned out it was right. I was right. And you are worth talking to. So you might see me again. And
Okay.
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Johnny, and I will have him give the last word. So thank you so very much, everybody. We're going to shut this down, and I'll try to post you guys on when I'm going to talk with Sleeping Warrior. For Flat Earth Math, Charles Breeling, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.